Guests, good day, and I welcome you all to this virtual regional event. It is my great pleasure to address Dean of Faculty of Law, University of Indonesia, Dr. Edmond Makarim, distinguished speakers, Professor Azmi Sharom, Ms. Khoirunnisa Agustyati, and Mr. Adhy Aman, as well as audiences of academic and non-government organization members from countries in the Asia-Pacific region. On behalf of Respect Program, let me congratulate Perludem and Djokosoetono Research Center for the launch of the Asia-Pacific Journal of Elections and Democracy. Now, public and academic societies, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region, already have a scientific and credible sources on the electoral law reform and democracy. This is also a platform for academics, research institutions, civil society, and policymakers to connect one with another. Respectively, the event today is a momentous time for Perludem in its effort to develop a regional platform for knowledge sharing on democracy and electoral issues. Perludem has experienced the lack of available important sources of comparative knowledge that reflect relevant circumstances, challenges, approaches, and analysis. Perludem then envisions a forum or platform to discuss key issues that able to inform relevant stakeholders and address complex electoral issues facing the region. USAID through Asia Pacific Regional Support for Elections and Political Transitions or RESPECT program then responded to this need. And the journal that we will see and discuss today is a concrete step towards the fulfillment of developing a knowledge sharing platform in the region. We hope that this election knowledge can be used as references, also able to contribute to advocacy works to create enabling environment for better electoral governance and political processes. In this time, I would acknowledge the significant role of Djokosoetono Research Center, Faculty of Law, University of Indonesia. Through sharing the knowledge on how to manage and publish an academic journal, and through intensive consultancy, the Djokosoetono Research Center has given great support to Perludem to scale up its existing journal to be an academic regional journal. Thank you to Djokosoetono Research Center or DRC. And in this opportunity, let me convey my gratitude and deep appreciation to all researchers and reviewers which have had great contribution to this journal. Also, to all participants in this forum. This involvement is part of great contribution and continuous support to provide open access scientific publication, which can be utilized in advancing today's society. Good luck for you all and for the discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you so
Joel?
much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joyce. And on behalf of the team as well, we want to thank you for your guidance and support all throughout the process of developing this journal. Thank you so much. It is now my honor to give the floor to Dr. Edmond Makarim, the Dean of the Faculty of Law, Universitas Indonesia, to give his opening remarks for this launch. Dr. Edmond, the floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you very much. I was previously not open the microphone. Your Excellencies, Professor Azmi Sharom, Deputy Chairman of the Election Commission of Malaysia, Adhy Aman, Senior Program Idea, Khoirunnisa Agustyati, Director of Executive of Perludem, researchers, authors, and all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. It has been a great pleasure to be here today, the launch of the Asia Pacific Journals of Election and Democracy. In this time, we are also delivering the group discussion about the promotion of election integrity through democratic and accountable party finance and legal resilience. At least today I want to highlight two things. First, I appreciate the collaboration between the Perludem and DRC, Djokosoetono Research Centers, Faculty of Law, Universitas Indonesia, to initiate this project. The Asia Pacific Journal of Election and Democracy is indeed a good initiative to highlight the importance of these issues in the region. As we had already known that even during the pandemic, with all restrictions, elections in several countries, including Indonesia, have been conducted to ensure the political rights of people are respected, protected, and fulfilled. Indeed, that holding an election during the pandemic is not easy. However, underlining best practices as well challenges during the difficult situation may strengthen our life in the future. Therefore, we need research to learn from the past and move forward for the future. Therefore, we certainly support any research and or publication and or advocacy in this field. And I will also suggest the importance of innovation, particularly the use of ICT in the general election and democracy. Here, the expectation is that the development of ICT may advance the respect and protection of democracy and political rights. The second point, I underline the effort of Perludem and DRC to focus on developing a journal. Managing a journal is not easy. In fact, very few has taken this road. It requires strong commitment as well as endless financial support. Faculty of Law has 3 journals, namely Indonesian Law Review, International Law Journal, and Hukum and Pembangunan. And there will be 8 new journal incoming. So each legal cluster representative field of the study has a place to publish their research. I hope the Asia Pacific Journal of Election and Democracy will also contribute to this eminent academic achievement. As the Dean, I'm happy to participate to host this journal in our institutions. Finally, to fellow academic and researchers, I call for all of you who are present today to take this opportunity to share your opinion, expertise through this journal. By writing, we share our thought and save the world. I wish a good and fruitful discussion. Thank you very much, Joe. Back to you, Joe.
Thank you so much, Pa Edmond, and we are very grateful to the Faculty of Law of Universitas Indonesia for taking the academic leadership role towards the promotion of democracy through free and fair elections in not just Indonesia but also in the Asia Pacific region. Thank you so much, Pa Edmond, for your inspiring opening remark. Now we shall proceed to the next part of our event, the launch. We will have 3 speakers who are equally held in high esteem for their contribution to democratization, specifically in the field of democratic elections in their respective countries and in the region. First and foremost, I would like to invite Mr. Adhy Aman, our first speaker. Mr. Adhy Aman is the Senior Program Manager of International Ideas Asia and the Pacific Regional Program and Country Program Manager for Fiji and Mongolia to give the first panel speech for today. Sir Adhy Aman, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Joe. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Assalamualaikum, peace be unto you. Joe, may I ask how much time I have for the presentation?
I think you have, you have 35 minutes.
Okay, so that's as per the agenda. Thank you.
Right, yes.
Right, so I would like to first of all thank Perludem and the Respect Project for inviting me today to share knowledge and thoughts together with two distinguished panelists, Dr. Azmi Sharom and Ninis Agustyati, both of whom I very much respect. I'd also like to say that I feel at home today because with the presence of the Dean and Faculty of Staff of of my alma mater, actually, University of Indonesia. So I'm very happy to be here. And I would also like to, on behalf of International IDEA, congratulate Perludem and Djokosoetono Research Center for the launch of their journal today. We hope the contents of this particular journal promotes awareness of how threatening money in politics can be if political finance regimes are not well managed. So let me share my screen now. So my presentation is called The Integrity of Political Finance Systems in Asia, Tackling Political Corruption, which is relevant to the task given to me. So for those who don't know, International IDEA is an intergovernmental organization with 33 member states, and we call ourselves a think and do tank. I prepared a video actually, but I think technically it didn't sound very well, so I would just skip it. It's meant to let you know more about our work on political finance. But you can always go to our website to find that out later. So International IDEA regards political finance as a matter of great importance. My presentation will be mostly based on International IDEA's policy paper number 19, published in late 2019. You can see it on the screen there. It was written by Eric Morbrand, Fernando Casalbertoa, and my colleague Yukihiko Hamada, who unfortunately couldn't be here with us this morning. I chose to present this publication because it fits well with today's discussion by providing a regional overview on how the integrity of political finance systems can tackle corruption and promote electoral integrity. The key findings of this policy paper is that political finance in Asia are often influenced by the intertwined nature of business-government relationships, political parties' informal bookkeeping practices, unrealistic regulations, and procedures and regulations that favor the ruling parties. My presentation will also be based on International IDEA's newest publication on political finance, released in December 2020, written by my colleagues Yukihiko Hamada and Khushbu Agrawal. This report contributes to the discussion of the future of political finance by exploring the following trends, opportunities, and challenges related to money in politics that need to be taken into consideration when improving political finance systems. So first is mainstreaming political finance regulations into an overall anti-corruption framework. Secondly, supporting the implementation of existing political finance regulations and monitoring their performance. Harnessing digital technologies to ensure transparency and accountability in political finance. And designing targeted political finance measures to encourage the inclusion of underrepresented groups in politics. Let's look at a few of the challenges that we found prevalent in our region, Asia. First is absence of regulation, as you can see on top there. The lack of regulation represents a significant challenge to political finance in Asia. The practice of imposing rules on political finance is relatively new in much of the region. Several countries have large areas of political finance that are unregulated. In Pakistan, anonymous donations cannot be made to parties, but they are permitted for candidates, rendering this rule ineffective. Malaysia offers an even starker example where the practice of undocumented money exchanging hands before elections is well established there, according to Professor Terence Gomez of University of Malaya. Former Prime Minister Najib Razak could even claim that the $700 million he received were a legal campaign donation from a foreign country. Next are the intersections between business and politics. In many Asian jurisdictions, elected office provides lucrative returns. Politicians exploit their positions to enrich themselves, expand their businesses, and help their friends. Control over mechanisms that guide the political economy involves a significant amount of money. For instance, former Thai Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra used his business interests to fund his political activities and his elected positions to further his business interests. This proximity to business and politics has significant consequences. In particular, business actors treat politics as an investment. They provide patronage to a specific political actor in exchange for economic and political benefits. These relationships make it harder to curtail unwanted influences in policy creation and political agenda setting, and ultimately undermine the goal of political finance regulation. In the Republic of Korea, familiar brands such as Samsung and Hyundai won favorable loans and other government support while supplying funds to the coffers of former dictators, such as Park Chung-hee and Chun Do-hwan. More recently, in 2018, former President Lee Myung-bak, who used to work for Hyundai, was convicted of embezzling 11 million US dollars. Next challenge are the informal management practices within parties and campaigns. Many parties and campaigns lack expertise in managing accounts. They often engage in only basic bookkeeping. In Bangladesh, for example, political parties have weak capacities to record their finances. Parties lack sufficient staff to record donations and spending. Accounts contain only the briefest information and are not audited. While the law states that a failure to comply with political finance regulations can lead to the cancellation of parties' registration, this rule has not been enforced. In Nepal, parties are legally required to keep proper accounts, to have the accounts audited, and to submit them to the Election Commission. In practice, though, parties rarely keep accounts accurately and almost never audit them. Yes, one may see these countries are among the least developed countries, but without proper oversight and rule enforcement, these examples may be true in any country. Next challenge are the unrealistic rules. Speaking of rules, even when regulations are in place, they may be unrealistic in the context of a country's actual political finance practices. If the rules depart so sharply from reality, then faithful implementation can be next to impossible. India, for example, has traditionally allowed anonymous cash donations of up to 20,000 rupees, or about 300 US dollars. Undocumented money and the possibility of illicit exchanges entered the political system through this route. The rules were updated to decrease the amount allowed to 2,000 rupees, or about 30 US dollars, in an attempt to make it more difficult for black money to enter politics. Yet parties now simply receive smaller but more frequent donations. The overall amount of donations is expected to remain the same. The reform, therefore, appears to have created more paperwork, but done little to address the issue of undocumented funds in politics. Next are regulations that discourage competition. Rules governing parties and elections can't always be considered neutral norms that foster fairness in political competition. Rulemaking, as much as rule breaking, involves taking a position in struggles for power and domination, including those related to political finance. For instance, incumbent groups can regulate political finance as part of a strategy to exclude or discriminate against others. Where a dominant ruling party enjoys a wealth of resources for campaigning, placing tough restrictions on political finance can only disadvantage opposition groups. The ruling party gains an advantage through its reputation, everyday press coverage, and its control over the state apparatus. Opposition parties may have to rely on private funding to gain public attention. In this situation, political finance regulations can unintentionally facilitate ruling party domination. Singapore, for example, has rules on political finance that appear strong to external observers, which it enforces effectively. The ruling People's Action Party, or PAP, in power since 1959, has a wealth of resources to draw from, and therefore does not require private political funding to win elections. The PAP can rely on its reputation and the credit it gets from running the government. While holding a few seats in parliament gives the opposition a place in the news, the PAP gains the most attention from the media. Political finance regulations preclude the possibility of large donations that would empower the opposition. Okay, next, let's look at trends and emerging issues. Starting from the very bottom, public funding. State help to political parties and candidates can take two forms, direct or indirect. The most popular form of indirect support is free access to media, mainly television and radio. Most Asian countries distribute free airtime to parties. For example, Bangladesh, India, Malaysia, Mongolia, Singapore, Taiwan, to candidates, Afghanistan, Maldives, or both, Bhutan, Indonesia, Japan, Pakistan, the Philippines, South Korea, Sri Lanka, Timor-Leste, usually on an equal basis. Yet in some countries, airtime is distributed proportionally on the basis of electoral support, such as in Thailand, based on parliamentary seats, such as in Mongolia, or the number of candidates they field, such as in Japan. In others, like in Taiwan, the Electoral Commission decides before each election. For Asian countries, Cambodia, Myanmar, Nepal, and Thailand provide no free airtime. Direct public funding is usually provided in the form of state subsidies for election campaign expenses or day-to-day activities. In Europe, all states except 5, Belarus, Italy, Malta, Monaco, and Switzerland, guarantee parties access to some type of public subsidies. And all Latin American countries except Bolivia receive direct financial help from the state. However, state subsidies to parties and candidates are less widespread in Asia. Of the 20 states examined, almost half deny parties any such help. Moving up one level is private funding. One of the main concerns in party politics is the excessive influence of private interests, especially from affluent and influential elites who might not be particularly committed to the public good. Allowing such private entities to have unlimited financial influence in politics and therefore a say in political decision-making ultimately contravenes the principle of equal competition. For this reason, countries have banned or limited the amount that natural or legal persons can contribute to political parties and or candidates. Compared to other regions, Asian states have adopted a liberal approach to the regulation of private funding. Donations from entities participating in public tender and or procurement processes are allowed in several countries, and parties and candidates can take out bank loans whenever they consider it appropriate. Only Bhutan and Mongolia ban parties and candidates from using the loans. Although Bhutanese parties are allowed to take out loans to finance ordinary activities, they are not allowed for campaigning. On to spending. Another way to reduce the undue influence of external forces, make political finances easy to control, and increase citizens' trust in party politics is to limit both party and candidate spending during elections. In Bhutan, India, Myanmar, Pakistan, South Korea, and Thailand, this limit also applies to money spent by others on behalf of parties or candidates. In Afghanistan, spending limits are set at about $650 for individuals and $6,500 for companies during presidential elections, and $300 for individuals and $650 for companies during provincial council elections. Although most countries have introduced caps on candidate spending, only 7 limit party spending. Therefore, while Bangladesh has established a progressive cap according to the number of candidates, in the other 6 countries that cap party electoral expenditure, the limits are similar to those of candidates. And while in Bhutan and Myanmar, the limit is fixed, in the Philippines and Thailand, the total limit depends respectively on the number of candidates and registered voters per constituency. And second, from the top of the environment, you will see oversight. None of the aforementioned regulations towards the base of the pyramid will have any positive effect, such as stabilizing the party system, reducing corruption, or enabling small parties' survival without a proper oversight regime that involves reporting and control. At least formally, and with the only exceptions of Myanmar and the Philippines, all Asian countries require political parties to regularly report on their finances, even if Afghan parties only have to report on their income and not their expenditures. Even if parties are not required to officially submit any reports, they are obliged to keep careful accounts in case of an investigation request from the relevant authorities. However, many party and or candidate financial reports are incomplete and are not transparent. In many cases, like in Bangladesh, Malaysia, Nepal, the act of reporting becomes a simple formality. Therefore, with very few exceptions, such as in Pakistan and Sri Lanka, reports from parties and or candidates are required to include itemized income. In Bhutan, Indonesia, Malaysia, Maldives, Myanmar, and the Philippines and Thailand, this entails identifying the donor. In other countries, the donor must only be identified for donations over a certain amount. In some countries, this obligation does not extend to spending at all. In Cambodia, Malaysia, and Sri Lanka, for example, reports are not made in public. In Bhutan, they are only publicized very indirectly via the annual reports elaborated by the Audit Office, and in Myanmar, only reports submitted by candidates are made public. Effective political finance control requires oversight from adequate and independent authorities that are provided with sufficient resources and powers. Institutions responsible for political finance oversight may differ from country to country, and there is no one-size-fits-all model to regulate the negative impact of money in politics. However, clearly a good number of them entrust oversight responsibilities to the electoral management body. As you can see from the graph, 46.1%. And this is global, yeah, from 180 countries, not just our region. 46.1% electoral management bodies. To be effective, oversight agencies need clear mandates and legal powers, political independence, and sufficient human and financial resources, and to provide necessary information and guidance to political parties and candidates. So we're back to the pyramid now. And at the top of the pyramid, we have digital technologies as a trend. Over the last decade, many aspects of political finance practices, from raising funds to reporting and disclosing political party spending, have changed drastically. Digitalization is playing an increasing role in the flow of money in politics, for instance, through crowdfunding and online digital expenditure, creating both opportunities and challenges for political parties and politicians. So from the graph, you can see that 66% of world population are unique mobile phone users, 59% are internet users, 51% are active social media users. So these are all already in the majority, and the number is only growing. Digital technologies pose challenges. As of July 2020, there were approximately 4 billion active social media users in the world, accounting for 51% of the total global population, up by 10.5% from the previous year. That's a big jump. With the increasing number of internet and social media users worldwide, political parties and candidates are spending significant amounts of money on online campaigning. Political finance regulations tailored to online political campaigns must accordingly be developed. Okay, stuck again. Up. Okay, good. Now, speaking of regulation, beware of the potential loopholes within current legislation posed by new technologies. Online spending is one. While political parties, candidates, and other third-party campaigners increasingly spend more on their online campaigns, only 7% of countries worldwide regulate how these actors can spend money online. Even in countries that do have such regulations, significant challenges remain, including a lack of access to data on payments by regulators, difficulties associated with tracing the source and destination of online expenditures, the speed of innovations outdating legislation, a lack of capacity within oversight and regulatory bodies, and weak inter-regulatory agency coordination. And then there's crowdfunding and other fundraising tools. While crowdfunding and other fundraising tools can help small donors contribute to political parties and campaigns, they can also pose regulatory challenges for political finance oversight bodies and the political parties themselves. For example, the automated nature of crowdfunding could make it easier to divide large donations into smaller amounts that do not meet the reporting threshold. In countries that prohibit donations from specific sources, such as foreign donations and legal persons, political parties and candidates must take appropriate measures to ensure that crowdfunded donations come from legitimate sources. And thirdly, there are cryptocurrencies. While cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin are not yet widely used to fund political parties and electoral campaigns, some parties and candidates have started to accept donations in cryptocurrencies. Depending on the design, some cryptocurrencies could make it very difficult to trace the donor identity and destinations of their donations, circumventing political finance regulations such as donation limits and bans on anonymous donations. Okay, now, how do we address these challenges? Now, International IDEA recommends designing holistic, integrity-enhanced systems where regulations, mechanisms, systems, and safeguards are put in place for every key political finance actors. So the first are the public officials. So these would involve civil servant appointment mechanisms, conflict of interest and disqualification regulations, anti-bribery tools, public procurement processes, immunity and indemnity regulations, asset declaration systems. Now, on behalf of the related to political parties and candidates, there could be political finance regulations strengthening them, internal party democracy and financial accountability systems, inter-party dialogues and code of conduct agreements. On the side of oversight actors, there could be transparency instruments within the system, rule of law and access to justice is ensured, civil society, media, and whistleblower protection mechanisms are in place, and then electoral monitoring and oversight systems are working. Finally, on the side of the donors, meaning the people who donate to political parties and candidates, there could be anti-money laundering systems, asset recovery mechanisms, corporate social responsibility policies, and then regulations on lobbying. So again, my presentation has come from these publications. You may download it from our website. You can use the QR code to get there. And then also this newer publication called Political Finance Reforms, How to Respond to Today's Policy Challenges. And again, the QR code is there. So in terms of, to close, in terms of the way forward, we would like to offer that making money play a positive role in promoting democracy. Money is often perceived as a way for powerful interests to capture government policy-making processes, which leads to low levels of public trust in representative institutions. In this context, a transparent and effective political finance system can help restore public trust in democracy. Political finance regulations, compliance incentives, and implementation mechanisms must all be motivated by a commitment to safeguard and promote democracy. To this end, political finance systems should be constantly updated to remain relevant to changing political, economic, and societal circumstances. While the persisting and emerging challenges highlighted in this presentation touch upon different aspects of political finance systems, there are some common factors that policymakers need to take into consideration in order to effectively address future challenges. The first is better cross-institutional coordination. Institutional mechanisms should be introduced to facilitate better information sharing and policy coordination among all stakeholders. Data and evidence. In order to design effective political finance systems, countries should develop benchmarks and indicators to monitor whether their policies deliver the desired outcomes, such as increasing the number of marginalized and underrepresented groups in politics and improving compliance with political finance regulations. Region and country-specific analysis. Many prior political finance assessments focus on developed countries. In order to enlarge the evidence base of global political finance research, international organizations, civil society organizations, and the media could conduct in-depth assessments of political finance systems in developing countries. In addition, political finance systems at the local level tend to receive less attention. Yet, that is where the corruption risks are most prevalent in many countries. Future assessments of political finance systems should therefore examine how regulations are implemented at the local level. So that has been my presentation. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pa Adhy, and for actually sharing your insights in the tremendous work that Adhy has done on ensuring political accountability and transparency towards democratic institutions, specifically political parties as well. I think two of all that you've said, which are equally important, I think I have two takeaways as a taxpayer myself. And when you talked about state funding for political parties, it's really important to develop and strengthen mechanisms to make them accountable in all processes from acquisition and from the use of public funding. At the same time, you mentioned about the role of technology, which is an emerging issue at the moment, and I think that would call for more research and perhaps could be taken as a future theme for this journal. And we would love to have your guidance and your expertise involved in such creation of new knowledge on this issue. Technology definitely is a double-edged sword. It can facilitate processes, but at the same time it can hinder accountability and transparency amongst public and political actors in our societies. Thank you so much. I hope you can join us for Q&A. I believe our participants have questions for you later. But for now, I'd like to pass the floor to Professor Azmi bin Sharom, the Deputy Chairperson of the Elections Commission of Malaysia, a dear friend of mine. I'd like to pass the floor to him now. Azmi?
Thank you, Joel. Thank you. Thank you for promoting me, Joel. I was never a professor, but thanks very much. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate Perludem and DRC for getting this journal out. It's very difficult to do so, and it's a wonderful achievement. I'd also like to say hello to all my friends. Adhy, it's been a long time. And now it's going to be even longer. When are we going to meet again, my friend? I'd like to acknowledge Khoirunnisa, my fellow panelists. Definitely, I'd like to congratulate all the writers. Joel, you wrote in this as well, didn't you? I'm surprised you have the time. Patricia, of course, Nat, DC, and Azmi. Again, I haven't seen you guys for a long time. I think the last time I saw you was in Germany before everything shut down. Congratulations to Dinesh, Miranda, and Celso. I don't think I've met you guys, but congratulations. We will meet one day. I've read your works. They're very impressive. It's excellent stuff. So excellent, in fact, that I don't know what I can say to add to what has already been said. Azmi, for example, in your wonderful chapter on Malaysia, you really put all the problems down. One of your sources was my colleague Faisal. I should have forced him to come and speak here instead of me, because he seems to know a lot more than I do. Yeah, well, too late for that. No, so what I'm going to do is now, because look, like I said, the chapters in the journal are excellent. It covered the Philippines, Timor-Leste, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand as well, I think. And it's very difficult for me to add to this. So what I'll do is I will look at some of the issues and the effects of money politics based more on my experience of the last 2 years working in, and I hope that this is not too boring and that it will add to the discussions. So let me begin. Political in a vacuum, it exists, in a system, a bigger system. And this can be problematic as well. I mean, one example is that there was a proposed political financing law in Malaysia a few years ago. And one of the objections came not from the ruling party, but from the opposition, because they were afraid that if donors were exposed, if you were forced to actually let people know who your donors were, they were afraid that some of these donors would be they will face a witch hunt by whoever wins. So for example, if I had party A and I have a donor who gave me a lot of money, and then party A loses, party B comes into power, then party B will then somehow victimize the donor. So what this shows is that there's a complete lack of confidence in the rule of law in the country. So this is what I mean, that nothing exists in a vacuum, including political financing and political financing laws. And this is a problem that I will try to look at it from that perspective. One of the laws that we do have is the Election Offences Act. And this is something which is supposed to be administered and enforced by the Election Commission. And this act is, well, for one thing, it's ancient. It's from the 1950s. So it still has provisions which are very strange and very weird, like you cannot use animals during your campaigning, meaning not meaning taking elephants and bears and cows and things like that, but using animal-drawn vehicles during your elections. That's obviously from the 50s. That doesn't exist anymore. So apart from that, there are other problems with this law. Bribery, for example, of course, it's an offense, but bribery is a very difficult thing to prove in the sense that the monies that has passed hands has to be such that it has changed a person's choice with regards to who he or she is voting for. It's not very easy to prove. And it's also a crime which doesn't actually have a human victim. The victim is democracy, but there's no human victim, because the person who's giving the money is happy to give the money. The person who receives the money is more than happy to receive the money. And it becomes an issue, and it's very, very difficult to prove that it happens. I mean, like during an election or by-election, I would get videos of so-called corrupt practices, but actually the videos don't show anything which can hold up in a court of law. And this is one of the problems that we have, that the concept of bribery is very difficult to prove. Also, you know, the things, I think Adhy had mentioned this before, election spending. There's supposed to be a limit on how much you spend, but your report, which is submitted to the Election Commission, it's actually, you know, it's not audited. So every report that comes in says, you know, basically I have spent as much as I'm supposed to spend and nothing more, you know, and it becomes a formality, just like Adhy pointed out, and it doesn't really help in curbing money politics. There are certain other points, there are certain other provisions in the Act which requires a lot of help on our part. We need help from the judiciary. So for example, treating, you know, you're not supposed to treat people in your campaign. You're not supposed to buy them meals and things like that. And you know, we Southeast Asians, we like to eat, right? And eating is like something which is part of our DNA, you know. So, but does for example, if you provide coffee and tea, does that mean it's treating? Is that corrupt? You know, and this kind of activities, just how far you can go with these kind of activities, it requires the judiciary to provide enough cases and decisions in order to create a jurisprudence upon which we can then clearly say, look, this is treating and this is not treating. But unfortunately, we don't have that body of judicial work, which could help us in our work. Now, there are other things which I would like to touch upon. For example, yes, money politics is an issue, but apart from that, there's also the issue of the government still having a great deal of power during the election period, right? So the need for caretaker government and the need for clear rules as to what a caretaker government can or cannot do is also something which we have to work upon. The activities of the caretaker government, who makes up the caretaker government, the powers of a caretaker government. These are things which the Election Commission, we have been looking at it, and that we feel that there is definitely a need to have rules with regards to this issue. But unfortunately, of course, a lot of these things, you require the government of the day and Parliament to be willing to accept these ideas and to be willing to move forward with the necessary legislation. So yeah, I recognize this, but in order to make this a reality, where there is a clear system for a caretaker government, we need a political will. Another aspect of money, why is money so important? Because you campaign, you need it for campaigning, etc. And in Malaysia, you need to buy flags, I think. I mean, Malaysian politicians and Malaysian political parties are addicted to flags. They like to buy hundreds and hundreds of flags, which is terrible for the environment and it's awful to look at, but that seems to be their thing. And you can tell how rich a party is by looking at how many flags they have, right? But apart from that, I mean, what it means is basically, at the end of the day, what we need is a clear guidelines for access to the press, access to the media. If people are able, if parties and even independents are able to actually put their ideas forward in a media which is not only accessible but fair in their coverage, this is something which is of vital importance, I think, because then it kind of levels the playing field. The difference of wealth matters a bit less if there is proper access to the media. Now, one of the things that unfortunately which you know, working with the Election Commission this last 2 years, this is, I don't know, this is quite sad, but one of the things I've noticed, unfortunately, is that corruption in a way has become a norm, in the sense that vote buying or the giving of money or providing financial rewards for people to go and vote, it appears that it's not just something which political parties do, but it's something which voters expect. And this becomes extremely problematic, because if this is what is expected, then you know, it's a supply and demand kind of situation. If there is a demand, there will be a supply. And so this leads to another issue, which is of civic mindedness, of civic education, something which is lacking, you know, and something which I think we should be concerned about. And it is another thing which of course the current election commission has been looking at, as to, you know, the improvement of civic mindedness, of civic education, civic knowledge on the part of our people, particularly the young, because they're the ones who will be growing up and voting in the future. Now, a lot of work has been done in terms of where Malaysia is concerned. Terence Gomez has done incredible work with regards to money politics and political financing, and it'd be foolish for me to try to add to that. But one of the things that he constantly talks about is the independence of the Election Commission. That is an issue. I totally, completely and freely admit that public confidence in the Election Commission is absolutely vital, but it's not necessarily something which we enjoy. Now, in terms of practicality, what can be done? Well, first and foremost, at least in Malaysia, our election commission, you have the commissioners, the 7 commissioners at the top, but the actual secretariat, the people who actually do all the business of the day-to-day running of the commission, are civil servants. And therefore, they are beholden to the civil service in general, you know, to the public services department. And ideally, it would be good if the Election Commission of Malaysia was completely independent. That means it's a statutory body with its own unique service, where, you know, we are guaranteed the necessary funds with which to do our work, but our staff are our own staff. You know, it's not our staff does not come from the larger pool of civil servants. You know, and that would be an important step in order to ensure that the Election Commission, at least, is considered to be free and fair. Or at the very least, if you can't even do that, at the very least, there has to be a clear mechanism where, for the bigger posts in the secretariat, the commissioners have a much more important voice in the choosing of these individuals, in the hiring, maybe not firing, but transferring of these individuals. That would help some way in increasing public confidence with regards to the commission. Now, the commission itself, yeah, I mean, okay, it's, yeah, I feel a bit uncomfortable speaking about this because I was appointed in a very odd way. The appointment of commissioners in Malaysia is very not transparent, all right? Okay, I'll be the first to admit it. Suddenly I was a lecturer and the next day I'm a commissioner. Ooh, it's very weird. That has to improve, of course. Now, the fact of the matter is integrity does not depend on a system. Integrity depends on the individual. But a system can be created to at least seek out the individuals who are more likely to have integrity than not. All right, and in that case, yeah, definitely, we have to change the method with which commissioners are chosen. It's not weird, it's not strange, it's not rocket science. In Malaysia, we have the Commission for Judicial Appointments. So judges are chosen by a commission, a body. The same can be done with regards to the commissioners of the Election Commission. You know, you could have a separate body. It could be cross-party, it could be totally separate from political parties, but a group of people who would then have the power to interview and select the people that should make up the commission. I think that's important because right now it's not transparent at all. The Prime Minister is the one who selects the commissioners. The king appoints the commissioners, but it's a selection which is, let's be honest, it's a political selection. That has to change. Now there has been talk. A lot of people want the EC to change completely. You know, right now we just have one election commission. There's been talk to have several separate bodies, like Indonesia. You have your election commission, then you have your enforcement, Bawaslu, then you have your oversight body. A three-tier system. The proposal in Malaysia has been to have the election commission, which runs the election, an enforcement wing, and then a separate commission to do the delineation, you know, the drawing of the electoral boundaries. This is a proposal. It's I'm not sure how far it's going to go. Personally, I would prefer to actually just improve and strengthen the existing commission, strengthen our independence, take away some power from Parliament. Parliament and the cabinet have too much power with regards to delineation, for example. That has to be taken away. I would rather have one body, but improved, rather than several bodies, because with all due respect to Indonesia, I know that sometimes they argue with each other. And trust me, if that happens in Indonesia, it will happen in Malaysia. They'll be fighting with each other, and that could raise more problems. Now, with regards to an overseeing the election commission, we used to have an actual a select committee, a parliamentary select committee. And that's a good idea, I think, because it could be cross-party. It could be, it could be from, you could have members from both sides. And this could be the body which can question and can demand answers from the election commission. Oddly enough, this parliamentary select committee was disbanded recently by the latest Speaker of Parliament. The reason why I don't know. I don't speak to the Speaker, but it's unfortunate, because I think that was a good first step in making us more accountable. Anyway, so these are some of the issues that I think are important to look at, so that when we examine political financing, it has to be examined within the context of the bigger picture. And the bigger picture here is, one, respect the rule of law. Secondly, the shortcomings of existing legislation related to money politics. Thirdly, the issues of caretaker government, access to media, and public education. With regards to why money politics is a bad thing. And finally, the need for election commission to be truly independent. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much. I don't have a fancy display, because Adhy, if you are having trouble with it, I can guarantee you, if I tried, the whole system would explode. So I leave it at that. Be more than happy to answer questions. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Azmi. Again, you provided us with a very analytical, very inspiring look of the situation in Malaysia. And I think what you mentioned, there's this one word that you mentioned, integrity. And I think that sort of draws the line between between a politician and a public servant. And it's something that has to be ingrained in someone if you want to be accountable and if you want to really serve the people. I think one has to have that integrity in order to question the current system and perhaps instigate reform in the legal framework and even in the political practices in the country. That's just one part, but you said so much, and thank you for that. We'll have questions. You can now, if you want to ask your questions, please do put them on the chat box, and then maybe we can respond to them later so that we can save time as well. Another thing, the DERCHA team had posted an attendance list that you have to fill out for future reference also. If we can invite you to write for our future journals, that could be the basis. At the same time, we'll take in more questions on the chat box and later also. But now I'd like to give the floor to our next speaker, Khoirunnisa Agustyati, who is the Executive Director of Perludem from Indonesia as well. I'd like to give the floor to you now, Khoirunnisa.
Okay, thank you, Joel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or wherever you are. So today I'm very happy and very excited for the launching of this journal. This is, I know this is still the beginning, and our homework is, we have a lot of homework to maintain this journal, but I think the collaboration between Perludem and DRC will be make our dream come true, ya, Mbak Joyce and Ibu Ririn. So let me share my screen. Yeah, today we are talking about the electoral integrity and political party finance. Okay, if we talk about, I start my presentation, so I don't, I think I will not need that much time because Mas Adhy and Prof. Azmi already explained comprehensively about the context of political party finance in the democratic system. So if we talk about the function of the political parties, I think some of the political scientists, for example, BB like divide the function of the political parties into three phases: political parties in the electorate, political parties in the government, and political party as in organization. So if we see the function of these three phases of the political parties, I conclude the function of the political parties into some of these. The first is to solicit and prioritize needs and policy priorities as identified by members and supporters, and then familiarize and educate voters and citizens in the functioning of the political and electoral system in the generating general political values, educate and train party members and leadership on an ongoing basis, balance opposing demands and convert them into general policies, activate and mobilize citizens toward political participation while demonstrating how they can transform public opinion into viable policy options, channel public opinion from citizens to government, and then recruit and train candidates from public office. And to do this kind of things, of course, political parties needs money to do this kind of functions. And the question is now, why our political party cannot do maximally this function? Is it because the lack of the money, or they have neither things to do than to do this kind of function? This is also a homework for our political parties in Indonesia. If we define the political party finance, I quote from Valguera, 2014, the definition of the political party finance is the legal and illegal financing of ongoing political party activities and electoral campaigns. For example, in particular, campaigns by candidates and political parties, but also third parties. If we see this definition, we can divide into two aspects. The first is the source of the money, whether it is legal or illegal, and then how the money is being used, whether it is used during the election stages or outside the election stages. When we talk about the source of the political parties, we can divide actually into three general sources. The first, from the internal of the political parties, it can be from the membership fee, from the member of the political party who have seat on the parliament, and then the second from the state, donation funding from the state, and then from the third parties, for example, the private sector or business. In Indonesia, we have the law number 2, 2011 of political parties. In this law, the legal donation, the legal source of political party is from membership fee, but the law is not regulate about how the member can give the money to the political parties. It is regulate on the internal regulation of the political parties. And then we have donation from the individual, especially the member of the political party. So the member of the political party can give donation to the political parties, and it is also not regulated in the law. How is the maximum amount when the individual from the political party give donation to the political parties? It has challenge because when you are the member of the political parties and then you are rich person, you have a lot of capital, then you can give as many money as you can, and the challenge is the political party could be controlled by those who have a lot of money. And then the third is donation from individual who are not a member of the political parties. The limitation of the donation maximum is 1 billion rupiah, and then from the private sector, the private sector is the third parties or from the business. The maximum amount is 7.5 billion rupiah, and also the state funding. The state funding is regulated in the government regulation. Talking about the state funding, it is still a discussion in Indonesia because we think as a civil society, I think another government institution, for example, like LIPI, or we have KPK, Corruption Eradication Commission, think that the problem is our political party is because the main problem of our political party is about the money, because they have to get money to do their function, to run the political party organization, to do the campaign activities, to do the political education, to do the political recruitment. It need a lot of money, and the problem is it is very hard to form a political parties in Indonesia. Mas Adhy already mentioned about this, about challenges in Asia, and I will not repeat that. I will give context about Indonesia. In Indonesia, to be a political party who has legal status from the Ministry of Law and Human Rights, political party require some things, and it is not cheap to fill this requirement, because political party have to have an office in all of the provinces in Indonesia, 34 provinces in Indonesia, and then they also have the branch. They also have the office in the 75% of district in Indonesia, and then they also have to have office in 50% of sub-district in Indonesia. So it is not easy. It is not easy, and it is very expensive to have to form the political parties, to get the legal status from the Ministry of Law and Human Rights. And the political party to be the contestant in the election also have the same requirement. And the EMBs will do the factual verification to check whether the office exists or not. So it needs money to maintain the operational of the office. That is why to be the chairman of political party should be someone who can maintain all of the requirement, someone who can finance the political parties. And what about the new political parties? Yes, it is very hard for the new political parties to exist in Indonesia because of the requirement. So there is a phenomena in Indonesia, we call it beli partai. Beli partai it means that when you want to have a political party to be the contestant in the election, if you have a big amount of money, then you can buy the old political party who already have the legal status from the Ministry of Law and the Human Rights, and then you already have you just change the name, you just change the logo of these political parties, and you have the party. So this is also the problem in Indonesia. So because the political party needs to maintain this requirement, they have to maintain it so they can be participant in the next election. So they need money, and then it impact to how they recruit, how they find the candidate in the election, and then they have to recruit, they have to find the candidate who can finance the political parties. So that is why the function of the political party to do the political education, to do that those kind of function of political party is not, they do not do it maximally, because yeah, the money just for how to keep their existence in this field. So and then another problem is, if we see the report of the political party finance report, we call it just the formality of the political party, because we cannot see the detail spending, we cannot see the detail who give the money, where the money comes from, how the money is being used. It is still the formality, and there is no sanction that give the deterrence effect if the political party is not do the report transparent and accountable. So the question is why it is important to promote transparency and accountability of political party finance to promote electoral integrity. The first is to guarantee the equal competition between political party, like Prof. Azmi already said. We cannot, one of our principle of our election in Indonesia is to be free and fair election. How can it be fair, free and fair election if the candidate who have a lot of money, the political party who have a lot of money, is they can do anything in the campaign. They can make as much as a poster they can make. They can make advertising in the television. So it is not gonna be the equal competition between the rich candidate and the poor candidate. And then the second is to guarantee the equal competition between candidates. Like I said before, that there is no limitation when the member of the political party, the individual as a member of the political party, to give donation in the political party. So when there is a member of political party who are rich, who has a lot of financial capital, and then he or she give a lot of money in the political parties, and then sometimes the access to be nominated as a candidate is for those who has a lot of money than the cadre itself in the political parties. And the third is to avoid elected candidates or political parties being controlled by the capitalists. It's like Mas Adhy already said, that one of the challenges of political party finance is between the business and the political parties. When the businessmen who give their donation to the political party will ask something back to promote their business, for example. And the fourth is to empower the voters to choose the transparent and accountable parties. We also need to do the public education to the people, to the voters, that when you choose the political party or candidate who get money from the illegal source or illegal resource, when they are elected, when they are when they do the government, it will potentially end to the corruption or fraud. We have so many examples that our local leaders, our ministry, for example, that are caught by our KPK because they do things of corruption. And then safeguarding the sovereignty of the people. It is to make sure that people is not choose the candidate who give the money in the election stages. So it is pure that the candidate can choose. They can see who is the political party or candidate who is transparent and accountability in their finance. So it can reflect when they are elected as the public officials. And then empower the political parties to become institutionalized. So political party, if they can have a good political party financing report, they can, and then they can have legal source for the money, and then they become more institutionalized. They become more democratic. They can do public education. They can do more democratic recruitment, more democratic nomination of the candidate, because now we have phenomena in Indonesia. Yeah, if you have a lot of money, then you can be nominated as a candidate in locally of in the parliament election, for example. And the next is keeping public trust to political parties. Survey in Indonesia show that public trust for political party or for the parliament is low in Indonesia. People is not believe in political parties because political parties is associated with the corruption or fraud. And the next is avoid the potential fraud, corruption, and abuse of power. When the money control the election, when the money control the democracy, there is a potential of fraud, corruption, and abuse of power. And the next is safeguarding the integrity of the election result. It is very important that people trust the result of the election, because when the people is not trust the election result, then it can happen to some riots or a protest from the people. So actually in Indonesia there is discourse. There is we in Perludem, I think other civil society and academics are advocating, promoting that we need state funding to be increased for the political parties. I know it is not a popular opinion for the people, because people will ask why the state have to give bigger amount for the political party. What is the contribution of the political party? Because we see corruption, because we see fraud, because we see another bad things about political party. Yes, we realize that people will ask why we have to give more money to the political parties. But because since we already choose democracy is our system, and political party is one of the important institution of democracy, then the state needs also to keep this institution being institutionalized, being democratic. One way is to give public to increase the state funding to the political parties. Of course, the state funding is not to cover all of the operational needs of the political parties. For example, the public funding just cover 30% of the political parties' needs, so they can do their function. So they don't have to find another resource, especially illegal resource to finance the institutions, because when they already don't have to worry about where the money comes from, they can do their function. And of course, there is a requirement to increase the state funding to the political parties. For example, KPK and LIPI mentioned about the integrity system of political parties. It means the political parties have to be more transparent in their political party report. They have to do democratic recruitment. They have to do more democratic nominations, so that if they already fulfill the integrity system, then the state funding can be increased to the political parties. I think I stop here, Joel, and I guess we can continue to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vanessa, for such a comprehensive examination of not just the legal framework, but also the social conditions. And you mentioned in the end about how do we ensure that accountability and transparency are sustained and normalized in Indonesia in particular. Thank you so much. We will now open the floor for questions and comments, reactions. But before that, I believe that we have already, may I ask the team if we have made the website online for the journal actually. Does everyone have access to the journal now? May I ask if everyone has access to the journal?
Not yet, Joel. After this,
Okay. After this. Okay, so we keep everyone in suspense. So you have to join us in order to get the access. All right, we have one question, but I want to start this off with a question about, I think, the current condition of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in some countries already entering what they call the new normal. And in light of the discussion that we had so far, has it or will it exacerbate corruption, lack of transparency and accountability? And what do you think would be the prospects for the new normal in terms of ensuring that political parties are kept accountable with respect to their to funding and their respective roles and responsibilities in dispensing, you know, public funding, state funds, or even private funding, because I think the COVID-19 pandemic has indeed induced, I believe, a more centralized governance in our society. So we have seen governments, current governments, actually taking, you know, the spotlight, taking that lead in governing societies, and it's something that, of course, will have implications on how things are actually done in government and in societies. May I ask about what you think about this issue? How has it exacerbated? Has it opened a kind of worms? Has it opened opportunities to actually move for change in these issues? So I throw that question to our panelists. Is there anyone who?
Sorry, Joel. Can you repeat the question?
Right. So my question is just, I think to just make it simple, I'm just particularly interested about knowing the present and the future condition of you know, political accountability and transparency in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Has it actually exacerbated the current situation of as you've mentioned, there are still issues of grave corruption, the lack of transparency, or will it open opportunities in terms of reforming institutions, reforming practices towards, you know, better accountability and transparency amongst political actors?
Okay, if I may start the response. So COVID has brought forth some restrictions to mostly to movements, but to a certain extent to freedom of speech and expression as well. As Dr. Azmi pointed out earlier, for example, the suspension of Parliament in Malaysia, that's one aspect of restrictions, then curtailing checks and balances of governance in a particular country. And this is why international idea, supported by the European Union, is actively monitoring the effects of COVID-19 towards democracy and human rights. Perludem actually has been helping us in promoting this in Indonesia. This is why COVID, with its restrictions, can curtail democracy and human rights, and this is why we need to monitor, and we need to monitor it together. In terms of opportunities, though, I think what we're doing today is evidence of it, which is there is a greater push or a greater rise in the use of technology. I mean, without COVID, we haven't been meeting cross borders, cross time zones like this as much as we have been doing over the past year. And that's an opportunity. And this is why some aspects of my presentation was talking about digital technologies and what the opportunities and threats there may be due to the rise of use of technology. So, and as you have seen in the presentation, it does have an effect on political finance as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Nisa, our Dr. Azmi, do you have any take on the question?
Okay, Dr. Azmi first, please.
Well, okay. In terms of political financing, I'm not quite sure how COVID has made things any better or worse. In terms of democracy in general and election in general, yeah, I don't think Malaysia is the only country which has used it as an excuse to limit the normal practices of a democracy. For example, having elections. The opportunities, I think, are really, if you truly want to embrace the opportunities, would be in a small country like Malaysia. I'm not sure how this could work in a huge country like Indonesia, but in a small country like Malaysia, for example, we should be looking at different methodologies with regards to voting. We should be looking at the increase of postal voting and making that an option for people, even if they're not living overseas, you know, so they don't have to go to the polling centers and vote and risk getting infected. So, and political parties have to be more imaginative with how they're going to get the message across, because the usual method of getting the message across is to have large gatherings and, you know, where people get together and there's speeches and things like that. So that's something that the political parties themselves might want to explore as to alternative methods to getting the agenda and their message across. Thanks.
Thank you. Ba?
Yeah, yeah. In the context of election in Indonesia, I think the COVID-19 situation also impact the political finance, especially the campaign finance, because of the COVID situation, the attention of the public is about whether the contestant is suit with the health protocol. So when they do campaign, is not gather much people. The focus is about the health protocol, but we still have another problem. For example, vote buying. And other situation when corruption of the COVID donation from the government, and then there is also a situation when the COVID is hit our economy very bad. People lose their job, people get cut off their salary. So when the candidates are offering them the money in the election, they just accept it. Even though the number of the money is less than usual. For example, if the normal condition they can get 100,000 rupiah, and because of the COVID situation, 50,000 rupiah or maybe 20,000 rupiah, they just admit the money because the economic situation. They need money, they need food. So the vote buying is also increasing. I think there is also a survey that talk about it. So yeah, I think it is. It has COVID-19 is have impact in the situation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have actually three questions, two from one. Idham Holik. Idham, would you want to speak and maybe ask your question directly to our panelists?
Thank you, sir, for your giving opportunity. I wanna ask to the speaker, please explain to me about the way to finishing the moral hazard in political party. Because in every election, political party get used to spending the campaigns with illegal funds.
Can I just jump in there? I think there's two elements to this. Firstly, of course, you can improve the law with regards to making it difficult for political parties and politicians to indulge in unlawful activities. And this has been covered very thoroughly by Idea, by other academics. You know, if you make it difficult for them to indulge in money politics, then it becomes a harder thing to do. But I also think that what's even more important is that people must consider this kind of activities as immoral. To ask politicians to consider morality and ethics, it's a bit difficult. But if the voters are strong enough or moral enough or ethical enough to say, no, I don't like you because you are unethical, because you are immoral, that's the only real thing that they listen to. You know, we can make laws, but they will, you know, but those who have a mind to it, they will try to find ways to get around the laws. But if politically it makes no sense to do this, then that is what's going to stop it at the end.
Thank you. Any, Adhy?
Yeah, I have to agree with Bang Azmi just now. You've got to cut the supply. If the politicians can't get the supply of votes they need anymore, then they've got to think. Then they have to think, how can I keep getting these votes? And we have seen globally how more advanced democracies have put in systems to curtail political finance, the adverse effects of money in politics. That's because there's a demand for it. From whom? Yeah, from their constituents. So this is why, this event that we're in is very important, to tell the people and to raise awareness amongst people that you can, the onus is on you actually to bring about change. Thanks.
Wonderful. Ba?
Yeah, I agree with Pak Azmi and Mas Adhy. We need to expand our campaign. For example, in Indonesia, we have a campaign in bahasa Indonesia is jangan ambil uangnya, don't take the money. Jangan ambil orangnya, don't vote for them. There is a campaign about that. And also, yeah, I think we have to also increase people to report to the we have a Bawaslu election oversight body to report if there is vote buying, for example. But the problem is sometimes the people are afraid to report the vote buying because they are afraid to be criminalized if they are do the reporting. And also sometimes they think, oh, we already have Bawaslu, so it is their job to tackle this problem, not ours, not the people's anymore. So sometimes we also have to increase the people to do more actively oversight the election, not only rely on the Bawaslu, but people also, yeah, because sometimes the Bawaslu also waiting for the report from the people about the vote buying and something like that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, we proceed to Berse 2.0. Can I, who also has a question, I'll give the floor to you to ask directly to our panel. Berse?
Hello, hi. Yeah, I'm Ashraf from Berse. So because as Khoirunnisa pointed out in her presentation just now, that there are growing distrust, or people are not, they are not trusting political parties anymore. So for as we in Malaysia, we do not have any or lack of political financing regulation. So for Versailles, we are proposing for the state to fund the political parties. So that's why I asked, how do Indonesia convince the people to accept, or for people to approve that state should fund the political parties? Because people did not trust political parties, so it's a bit contradict for if the state fund the political parties. This is what I'm thinking lah. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. I just want to clarify. So Berse actually supports the call
Yes, yes.
for the state to fund political parties.
Yes, we are proposing for the government to fund the political parties.
All right, all right. I think that's directed to Vanessa, but I think our other panelists can also respond.
Okay, thank you, Pak Ashraf. Yeah, yeah, of course, people will. It is not popular, not popular recommendation, to increase state funding to the political parties. But I think we have to tell the people that political parties become a central institution in our democratic. To be a president, they should be from political parties. To be legislative, you have to from political parties. To be many other appointed public officials is also involving political parties. So political parties have a big role in our democracy. So we need a good political parties. We need a good democratic institutionalized political parties, and the state have to also have responsibility to make our political party become more democratic political parties. That is why we need to increase the state funding to the political parties. It doesn't mean that the state have to pay for all the political party needs. Just maybe, for example, 30% of the total expense of the political parties, and the political parties also have requirement to have a requirement to get the state funding. There is a reward and punishment. For example, if they can increase the number of women in parliament, then the state will give more money to the political party. But if they are not meet with the requirement, maybe for the next year, the state will not increase the money for the political party. I think so. It is not only the state just give the money, but there is also requirement. For example, the integrity. To increase the integrity of political party, we propose of SIPP, Sistem Integritas Partai Politik, political party integrity system. The political party should have the integrity system in their organization. They have to prove that they can make the report comply with the standard of the financial report. It should be audited, not only formally audited by investigative audited. So then people will can see that it also will push the political party to be more institutionalized as an organization. I think that's my comment, Joel.
Any responses, comments from our two panelists?
Yes, Joe. Yeah, I very much agree with what Ninis just said, that along with state funding, there can be positive actions that can be imposed on political parties. As Ninis mentioned, for example, the support for women candidates. Now, when you're proposing public funding, to avoid misunderstanding, you've got to also consider proposing it as a package. So if you look at, if I may share my screen again, if you look at this pyramid from earlier, there's public funding at the bottom. Now, when you're proposing an increase or an establishment of public funding, you also need to reduce private funding, because the intention is to bring money in politics towards sunlight, away from the darkness of private funding and its own its complications and complexity, into sunlight of public funding. Now, this puts into question, though, do donations from state-owned enterprises are considered public funding? That's a debate that you may have to have, especially in Malaysia. Now, and then not only that, not only reducing private funding or limiting private funding, but also limiting spending, because this will make political parties that compete in elections in a level playing field. Now, if there is level playing field, there's better competition, and that only brings good things for voters and the public. So that way you can get better public support as well. Now, along with public funding, usually comes with oversight, because as many countries would have, that if you use state funding, taxpayers' money, then it comes with a whole lot of rules in terms of how it can be used, how it will be audited, etc., etc. So if you put it this way, and you probably already have, hopefully the public would gradually warm up to your advocacy.
I just want to, maybe a quick follow-up to Nini's note. I mean, based on what you said about an integrity, an integrity mechanism, or like the one that you mentioned most recently, what has been the reaction from the political parties? Is this well received? Is it something that they are willing to actually go through? What has been the reaction so far?
Yeah, actually, the discussion is still going on. We still have discussion with political party. Yeah, because when we propose this recommendation, political party just take that okay, the state funding will increase, but they don't take another requirement. For example, the integrity system, or about incentive or disincentive. And about the number of how much we increase the number from the state funding is still being discussed, because how we count to increase the monies, because it should be based on based on the realistic counting, not just we give them this kind of money, use it. We still have to formalize how it is being counted. And I think I guess the situation in Indonesia, political parties in Indonesia, not all the political parties also agree with this kind of proportion, because there is political parties who reject state funding because they think that, oh, we can finance ourselves, we don't need state funding, because the owner of the political parties is businessmen. So it's still being discussed. But in Indonesia, actually, there is state funding, but the nominal is not big. 1,000 per votes in for political party in national level, 1,200 in the provincial level, and 1,500 in the district level. But still, it is not enough to make sure that they do their job as political parties.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, we have one more. Well, I think we can get 3 more questions at most. We have one from Titi Anggraini. I think I can give that floor to Titi to ask about Adhy. Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you, Joel. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Commissioner Azmi. Thank you for joining us this morning and giving us so many enlightenment on these topics. And also my senior, Bang Adhy Aman. It's a truly senior because we are studied law at the same faculty of Law, University of Indonesia. I would like to ask a question to Bang Adhy Aman, since Bang Adhy Aman is so familiar with Indonesian politics and election. So my question is, already now, currently, we have 3 institutions that organizing our elections. 3 EMBs, let's say so, but we are still don't have a special institution to supervise party finance. I mean, we always have a lack of legal provisions to supervise the party finance. So my specific question will be, do we need special institution to supervise party finance accountability? Since the main problem now in Indonesia is the accountability of the party finance that affected so many aspects of Indonesian political ecosystem. I mean, what we can do, since you said that we need a clear mechanism to supervise, to monitor the party finance accountability. So what we can do with our situation now in Indonesia, we have so many institutions to supervise the election, but can we do something to strengthen the supervision of party finance in Indonesia? Thank you, Bang Adhy. Aman. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you. Yes, please, Pak.
Okay. Thank you very much, Titi. Yeah, I've already mentioned that I feel very much at home because this is a lot of people from my alma mater, our alma mater, and the dean's virtual background brings back a lot of good memories. So allow me to share my screen again, just to remind you of this one slide I showed you. I hope it's not too small. So Titi, you mentioned about the need for an oversight body, a specific authorized oversight body. And as you can see, that is one part of what we call the money in politics integrity enhanced systems. And yes, that could be effective in terms of contributing to the development of this integrity enhanced system, but it's not the only thing. And for example, if you mentioned that there's low enforcement, low abidance, adherence by the political actors towards the rules, then it could be an enforcement issue. But then under oversight actors here, you see that it's not only this one oversight body that is expected to take a role. There is civil society, media, and also whistleblowers that can also be put in place to ensure compliance. And then don't forget that there needs to be transparency instruments as well, where political finance reports are published and open to the public. Some countries say that it's open to the public, but you have to request for it. And that creates not necessarily a barrier, but an extra step, an unnecessary extra step. So my answer to you, and I'm sorry, my answer is not straightforward. Have a look at the entire ecosystem, political finance ecosystem, and see where the weak points are. And therefore, you can bit by bit try to fill in those gaps, strengthen those weak points. And you've mentioned that the lack of oversight, specific oversight body is one strong weak point. But even if you have that installed, even if you have that, if you achieve that goal, whereas the others, as you can see here, the others are still missing, then you won't be able to reach your ultimate goal, which is a cleaner political environment. I know it's it sounds very complex and hard. But I mean, you and I know that we have worked on this ever since Reformasi began, and that's more than 20 years ago. So it does take time, and this is what International IDEA tries to contribute in by providing as much information as possible of how other countries do it. I mean, of course, we always say that there's no one size fits all. Every country is different, and they have different contexts. But we also always say that by learning how other countries do it, you might be inspired to attempt or try new things, new ways that you haven't done before. So hopefully this framework can help you. In fact, maybe you've done it already. You've done the assessment already, but it has many aspects and it takes some time. But I think the key, the ultimate key is because the ultimate challenge is lack of political will. I mean, everywhere you go, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Malaysia, Indonesia, it's all lack of political will. And the key answer to that is what Bang Azmi mentioned earlier. The voters themselves will have to tell the politicians, we don't want you to keep operating like this. We want cleaner politics. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Pa. May I ask, is there any more questions for our panelists? Are there more? Okay. Okay, I guess, okay, we have one last question. And then maybe I'll ask our panelists to just give their final word on this issue after this question from Hadar Gumay. Hadar, you can speak, please, Hadar.
Hi, thank you, Joel. Can you hear my voice here?
Yes, very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the DRC and Perludem for the launching of this journal. Wish you great success. And secondly, to all the speakers, I enjoy very much your presentation. Now, I just have one question specifically to Adhy Aman, a good friend of mine also. I'm just get a sense or worried as well that what have been the cause of this unsuccessful regulation regarding the political finance, because it's over-regulated. You know, you try to check the limited of the funding, and you have to report many times, and so on and so on. So, so it's come to my mind, it's very important that it's just, you know, why don't we just look for a simple one, as long as they do it, you know, as part of the accountability. So based on Adhy's observations or research or comparatively, so I'd like to ask Adhy Aman to share maybe one or two examples, just a simple regulations in other countries, but it works effectively in order to control and make this election participant accountable regarding their political or campaign finance. That's my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pak Hadar. Pak Hadar is my former boss and also a graduate of Universitas Indonesia, like many of us here in this room. Thank you very much for your question.
Mas Adhy.
Sorry?
He was my lecturer.
Ah, I guess that doesn't necessarily reveal his age, right? Pak Hadar, unfortunately, it's not that simple. I mean, there can be examples of one simple regulation that is effective, but it's not necessarily effective holistically. I think my last slide about integrity enhanced systems shows that how it has to take a holistic and integrated approach. There was one example I gave you, I gave the audience during my presentation is India, when they allowed anonymous cash donations at 20,000 rupee, up to 20,000 rupee, which is about $300 US, which is quite high for most standards. So they tried to curtail illicit exchanges by reducing that amount, which is very simple, isn't it? Reducing from 20,000 to 2,000, which is about $30 US. However, yes, it has reduced. It has made donating in an illicit way harder, but it hasn't really stopped it. And as I mentioned, it created more paperwork and has done little on the issue of undocumented funds in politics. That's because probably enforcement, for example, enforcement is not there. I mean, if you are violating the law, you are not being punished. Or if you're reporting an excessive amount of anonymous donations, nobody is asking questions. Why do you have so many? Nobody is comparing the report of that particular year with previous reports when the limit was higher, whether there was a difference. Nobody's doing that. So it's almost like a cat and mouse situation where you plug one hole and then another hole appears. And I'm sure you know this already. You mentioned about overregulation. That's also true. I mean, in my presentation, I showed the Singaporean example, where the incumbent government party is already so far ahead that they feel they don't feel any adverse effects of a stringent political finance regime. But it then also means that opposition parties are at a disadvantage. So yeah, you do need to find the balance, but and overregulation is possible, and it's quite easy to overregulate. You can regulate, and then it becomes difficult to enforce, for example, and I think there are examples from Indonesia like that. So you do need to find the balance, but I think our main recommendation is to look at, to make an assessment of the integrity enhanced system and find where the weak points are and try to address the issues that way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pa. Okay, I think we're ending the Q&A session now, and we're about to also end this panel session. And I would like to give the the final word from our. I know we've learned so much, and I think there's still so much work to be done in our political systems, democratic institutions in the region. But I'd like to give any for the final word. You can say you can maybe provide some ways forward, or perhaps an ending examination of the current situation. I give now the floor to our panelists for the final word. Yes, please.
Okay, I'll be quick because I'm hungry and it's lunchtime. But first, I want to thank my fellow panelists. I've learned a lot from you. Thank you very much to the journal. It's excellent. I wish you all the best in the future. I hope there'll be more issues coming up. I'd just like to say here that, well, as far as I'm concerned, the effort to keep on pushing for these changes are necessary. And although political will is a problem, I think that we have no choice but to keep on, regardless of what the politicians want. It's important that we keep fighting for a proper democratic system in Southeast Asia. We're still young as a region, democratically speaking, and there's a long way to go, but it's something that we all have to do. So I'm so happy to see that these efforts are being made. So good luck to everybody, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Azmi. But Adhy, you have any final word, please?
Yeah, thank you, Joel, and thanks to you for a very effective facilitation of this discussion. Thank you. In terms of ways forward, I think I've already made them clear during my presentation and also in answering the questions. So I would just like to take this opportunity to encourage everyone to keep the faith and keep the drive going in addressing the danger of money in politics. I mean, somebody during one of our lecture series last year, Professor Ju Chong Tam of University of Melbourne said that money in politics affects not only electoral integrity, but also can lead to policy capture and eventually to state capture. So the danger is real and it's right in front of us. So let's keep our eye on the ball. International IDEA, despite of it being an intergovernmental organization, we maintain our independence and our drive to curtail any state actions that has any adverse effects towards democracy, including on political finance. So once again, thank you very much to Perludem, Djokosoetono Research Center for inviting us, and congratulations once again to the launch of the Asian and Pacific Journal on democracy and on elections and democracy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pa Adhy. Kaninis?
Okay, thank you, Joel, Mas Adhy, and Pa Azmi for sharing with us today. Yeah, I think money is important for our political party and democracy, but don't let money control our political party and democracy. And we still have a lot of homework to do to improve the quality of our political parties, to be more institutionalized, more democratic, so we can get the democratic culture. Our democratic culture is also being improved in our country and also in the region. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you so much, Kaninis, but we'll have you later to actually close, so it won't be the last speaking. But before we close this, we still have two things to do. We actually have to launch the journal. So we are actually putting it up online. The organizers will be putting up a photo of where you can actually access the journal. Feel free to actually give us feedback. It is a good way of also examining the knowledge that we've produced so far. There you go. Congratulations. All right. I'd like to also maybe invite we also have in our midst our writers for this maiden issue of the Asia Pacific Journal of Elections and Democracy. I'd like to actually recognize them. Dr. Daisy Simanjuntak from Indonesia, but is currently in Taiwan. You may open your video for you to be recognized. I also like to acknowledge Dr. Azmi Tayeb from Malaysia is also here. Mr. Celso da Fonseca is also here. So I've co-written it with him, the one on Timor-Leste. We also have our team from Indonesia, Natalina Naibaho, Ahmad Ghazi, and Patricia Rinwigati, all from the Facultas Hukum Universitas Indonesia is here. And I'd also like to acknowledge Patricia Miranda, who's from the Philippines. I hope she's here as well. So we have now officially publicized, officially launched the book. Please feel free to access and share and give your feedback on how we can do it much better in the future. All right. As Azmi said, we are heading to lunchtime. I think in many parts of the region, it's already lunchtime actually. It's already past lunchtime in Timor-Leste. I'd like to call on, I think we now are moving forward from the maiden issue. And there would be a presentation of the next call for papers from Henrik M. Pratama of Perludem, who will be sharing with us some exciting details on the next issue. Henrik, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Joel. Hello, everyone. My name is Henrik Pratama. I'm a researcher in Association for Elections and Democracy. First of all, we would like to say thank you to Our Excellency Bang Adhy Aman, Dr. Azmi, and also our Executive Director, Mbak Nisa, for great discussions today. So we are happy to share all of you and to encourage all of you and invite all of you to participate in our second edition of the journal. Before that, I would like to give some brief explanation why Perludem and also DRC collaborate to produce this journal. Yeah, as one of civil society organizations has established in 2005, Perludem has one function and also have one focus to conduct research and also to produce the research. Since 2012, Perludem regularly publish journal every year, but unfortunately, the scope of journal is limited only for Indonesia and published in national level in Bahasa. And also the objective of to produce this journal is to publish the Perludem research and also as one of a tool to advocate what Perludem done with the research of elections and democracy issue. But nowadays, we Perludem collaborate with Djokosoetono research centers to improve and scale up our journal from Jurnal Pemilu and Demokrasi to Asia Pacific Journal of Elections and Democracy. We have 5 objectives to produce this journal. The first one is to facilitate and contribution from academics, advocates, researchers, and knowledge related to democracy and elections. And also to enhance and the capacity of researchers of our university research centers in producing election knowledge through research to publish in academic journal. And the third one is to critically analyze the legal framework and practice related to political participations in elections. And the fourth is to produce relevant knowledge leading to the elevations of the principle of good governance, transparency, and accountability in elections. And also the last one is to become the credible academic journal and election and democracy. We hope in the future this journal has accreditations internationally from the Scopus. And finally, we are happy and also encourage and invite to all of you to participate and send your papers to us. And we hope next month we already have the open journal system. So everyone who has interest with the elections issue and democracy issue, feel free to send your papers to our journal. So every year we will publish 2 editions every year, the Journal of Asia Pacific on Election and Democracy. And we have aims, and the scope is the Asia Pacific Journal of Elections and Democracy invite submissions that cover various aspects of electoral process and problem of democratizations in the Asia Pacific. Both one country studies or comparative investigation are welcome. So comparative politics, comparative law studies we are welcome to receive this paper. And the journal has multidisciplinary focus, and we therefore accept manuscript grounded in political science, economic, anthropology, cultural, and gender study, and also law study. And we also have a broad understanding of democracy, ranging from the dynamics of grassroots activisms to the operation of elite politics. And the journal practices a rigorous peer review process. The editor-in-chief first conduct a desk review, and if considered of sufficient quality, subsequently send the submissions to at least to external review. And I would like to introduce to all of you our editor-in-chief. The first one is Professor Marcus Metzner. He is the Associate Professor College of Asia and the Pacific Australian National University, and well known as Indonesianist also. He has a lot of study about elections and democracy in Indonesia comparatively with the other countries. And the second one is our Board of Advisor, Ibu Titi Anggraini. And we also have a Board of Editorial Advisors. The first one is Professor Topo Santoso. He is the lecturers of the Law Faculty in the University of Indonesia. And we also have Burhanuddin Muhtadi, Dr. Burhanuddin Muhtadi. He is the lecturer of Department of Political Science from Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University. And the third one, of course, you already know our speakers, Bang Adhy Aman, as a representative of the International Institutes for Democracy and Electoral Assistance. And we also have Dr. Pratisia Ridwiwiraganati from the Faculty of Law and also the Executive Director of DRC. And the last one, also we have Joel from the Strengthening Human Rights and Peace Research and Educations, ASEAN or Southeast ASEAN SEPSI. So we are happy to invite all of you to participate on these upcoming second editions. Before I stop introduce this call of papers, I would like to invite Ibu Titi Anggraini as editor-in-chief to give some brief speech and also to give invitations to all practitioners, academic societies, and also civil society to participate on this journal. Silakan Mbak Titi.
Pak Azmi, thank you for joining us and hope to see you again in another session and programs. First of all, I would like to thank all the authors and writers for the first journal that already officially published this morning, Indonesian time. And also thank you to Bang Adhy Aman from International Idea for giving a very impressive and impressive presentation on party finance this morning, and also my executive director Khoirunnisa Agustyati. And last but not least, our amazing moderator, Joel from Philippines. Thank you so much. Heroic, I think you already explained all the procedures to submit the journal. Hopefully, very soon we will launch the system, the electronic system to submit the journal, so we can have a credible mechanism for all of you who interested to submit your papers on election and democracy. With the development of democracy in the world today, many people and international organizations have started to think of referring to the development of election and democracy in Asia Pacific. So the presence of this journal is very strategic to become a forum for exchanging ideas and experiences in managing election and democracy in the Asia Pacific region. I would like to congratulate Perludem and also Djokosoetono Research Center for launching this journal that I believe will contribute much in strengthening election and democracy, specifically in Asia Pacific regions. So I would like to invite all of you, election organizers, election practitioners, CSO activists, academicians, or public to be part of this journal. We are willing to improve and become an accredited journal very soon. So we need all of your support. Once again, thank you so much for all of you, and hope to receive your papers for the second edition. Thank you, Heroic, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ibu Titi. So I think that's enough for me, Jo. Finally, I would like to invite again all of you from the university, from the civil society organizations and practitioner, advocate, and also from the EMBs to participate in this journal. And we hope as soon as possible we can publish the open journal system, so everyone who has interest and who has focus on issue on elections and democracy can submit your papers to our second editions in the last year. Thank you, Joel. I give back the floors to you. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you, Heroic, and it's very exciting to have actually such call. It means that the project is moving forward, and we look forward to having more, not just academics, but also members of civil society contributing to the knowledge that we have so far. It's very exciting. Okay, we are now ending this event, and we will be on time, a bit late, but we'll be on time. But before we do that, I just want to remind everyone to fill in the attendance list. And right after Khoirunnisa closing remark, please stay, because we will have a photo session. It's very Southeast Asian. It's very 2021, but please remain for the photo. But we have but our speakers have left, but yeah, they have to do something. But those who are here, please do stay on for that brief photo session. I now give the floor to the Executive Director of Perludem, Khoirunnisa, to give the final word for this event. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joel. Once again, thank you, Perludem's team, DRC team. I also want to congratulate for our team, Perludem team, DRC team, Bu Ririn, Mas Gozi, Mas Ben, and also Mbak Joyce, Mbak Tami, and everyone who already give their best for this event. It is not easy to develop a journal, accredited and also regional scope of the journal. It is not easy. Today is just the beginning. We still need to continue our collaboration, our consistency to manage this journal, because we want this journal become respective journal in Asia Pacific region. So once again, thank you very much, everyone, and happy reading of the journal. And just don't forget to submit your article. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaninis. Thank you so much. Also, it's been a pleasure to be working with Perludem over these past months, and with respect as well, and for your generous support and guidance. You were a partner definitely in this, a great generous partner in this project maiden issue, and definitely I'd like to also thank the Joko Research Center for taking that academic leadership role in producing this Asia Pacific Journal of Elections and Democracy. All right, now we do it as a community. Can you please, for those who are willing to open their videos, let's do one or maybe two photo sessions, brief photo sessions. So may I ask who is, so some people are wearing their masks, that's good for public health and for oneself health. May I ask everyone to please open those who are willing to open their videos to be for the photo session. Okay. Okay, so can I ask, or cannot open the video? All right, that's fine. But for those who can, please do. We'll do it twice. Who is doing it? Can you please, who's actually taking the photo?
I will.
Oh, wait, the host doesn't allow. So let's make it more democratic. Give them the choice to open their video. Can we please disable that function? Okay, so some people actually want to open their video. Okay. Yes, so we now see more photos. All right. Thank you so much. On the queue, who's actually taking photo? Can you please take the lead?
I will help.
Okay, Ben? Okay.
On my mark. 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. On that note, let's all fight for democracy, and let's all be in solidarity with people and with societies that are not enjoying the same level of democracy in our society at the moment. Let's all remember that the knowledge that we produce actually impacts lives, and it will continue to impact lives in the future. So we look forward to working with you. And yes, long live democracy, long live human rights, and long live to everyone. Please stay healthy, stay safe. And yes, let's all shape a better normal for everyone. Thank you so much. Terima kasih banyak.